and rumors, but let's get into contenders and pretenders here. This is something that, we're at the halfway point. It sounds like you're describing the Mavs presently. Yeah. I mean, the Mavs, we'll talk about them here in a second. But what we're going to do is we're at the halfway point. We have a handful of games left down the stretch of the season where teams are going to be jockeying for position and getting into the right spot of, trying to make that playoff push and, try to get some of those, work their way up in the standings to try to get, a little bit higher, a little bit, in a good spot to where they can, compete into the playoffs. But getting into this, we're going to decide if these teams are contenders or pretenders. And we're starting out with the New York Knicks. So what we've done is we've taken the top 6 teams in each conference, plus a couple extra wild cards wild card teams that, not official wild card teams, but just teams that were interesting to talk about. And we're going to let you know whether or not they should be contenders or pretenders. Now, if you've been listening to our show, kind of where we're leaning with the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. But Western Conference has gotten very interesting since the trade deadline. And it has kind of changed the landscape to where the West is wide open, but yet there's still better talent that's really gravitating all over the place, spread out amongst a lot of teams. So we're going to dive into a lot of these. First time chatter, Nathan. What's up, Nathan? Celtics, Will. Are you a Celtics fan, Nathan? Are you out there in Boston? What's up? Welcome.
Base plum picking Bucks, and Nathan comes back with the Celtics.
Celtics will pull the Chargers.
We already
San Diego Chargers, not even an LA Chargers.
No.
Going back to San Diego.
Let's start out with the Knicks. I think we both probably are on the same page with this, but I currently do not have the Knicks as contenders. They are pretenders, in my opinion. Here, they are bouncing back and forth with Miami on whether or not they want to move their way up the standings here. They're not going to be a team that's going to be dynamic enough in the Eastern Conference to dethrone any teams really above them outside of maybe the Brooklyn Nets. And even the Brooklyn Nets have talent. Maybe it's kind of the island of misfit talent because they have a lot of good talent. They just don't fit really together out there in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn's still ahead of them. And I still think that they're potentially slightly better. I haven't seen Brooklyn fall off really, still 34-24, but Knicks are not contenders for me, Scotty.
I mean, we could have Julius Randle's kid on this stream, and he'd be like, pretenders.
It's true.
I mean, did you see his reaction? We all saw the best player on the New York Knicks participate in the three-point contest, right? We saw that.
Oh, it was brutal.
A dumpster fire. Julius Randle, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If Julius Randle is your best player, you aren't going anywhere.
Yet we can't have KCP in the three-point contest. But I'm still bitter. It's okay.
Or MPJ.
Or
any of those guys. I mean, MPJ is the best shooter. There's about 8 guys on the Nuggets better at shooting threes than Julius Randle. But no, I mean, no. The Knicks aren't going anywhere. We witnessed their best player in All-Star Weekend come up short, like not even come up short, be a disaster. Not buying them at all. They're not going to win a series.
No. Scotty, I'll let you go first on this one. Are the Mavs contenders or pretenders? By the way, we have a Bama SC tie 36 seconds, nails it, Bama timeout. We got little, let me see where we're at here.
50 or 36 seconds. Who's Alabama?
We got 68-66.
South Carolina.
Ooh, upset alert for number 2 Alabama, which we will be talking about tonight. So, spoiler. All right.
Anyway, Mavs. Listen, it requires a lot more thought than certainly the Knicks. Obviously, making the big acquisition at the trade deadline with Kyrie Irving and Luka. I don't think it's going to be enough. I mean, I don't think I think they're going to be a tough out, no doubt. There's going to be nights where between those two, they're going to be unguardable. Do they play off each other well, frequently enough? And do they have enough around them to compete with some of these other teams in the West? I don't think so. I love Luka and his game. Kyrie, when he wants to be really good, can be really good, obviously. He's talented as hell. And at least it's short term in the sense of like maybe the off the court stuff with Kyrie doesn't hit, but this also is like is reported as kind of a short term marriage, maybe. It sounds like Kyrie might want to be elsewhere after this year. So he'll be a free agent. We'll see what happens there, but not enough time to have cohesion when you're playing against some of these other teams in the West. I think they could win a series, maybe two if things fall perfectly, but that's about as far as I see them going.
So you have pretenders for the Dallas Mavericks, and I agree. Pretenders for me, the Mavs are 0-2 with Luka and Kyrie in the lineup. They haven't been able to, and again, it's new, so they got to figure it out. But they were ranked 24th in net defense in the NBA. Well, you're not getting better defensively, at least in at those positions, right? Both of which are average, if not below average defenders. So you're banking on guys like Reggie Bullock to come in and try to be defensive presence. I mean, they got rid of Finney Smith in that trade. They didn't get any better defensive. That was their best defensive guy, and they traded him off. So he's gone. And I just don't see this team is probably, outside of these two, one of the worst teams on a roster, or like roster teams in the NBA. Like, you know what I thought about too? How I feel like when we're talking MVP caliber voting, the fact that we talked a lot about how Nikola Jokic carried a team that had 0 people on it to the playoffs. It had they were like what, the 5th, 6th seed last year without anybody. And then you look at the Dallas Mavericks and you look at what they're doing, and if you're going off the same kind of breakdown of what this team is doing and where they're at in the standings, you kind of got to give more love to Luka in the MVP race. If we're going to give Nikola Jokic what he did, carrying that team to a 6th or 5th seed in the West, and Luka's doing pretty much the same thing with even, well, I guess one better player now, go give Luka some love for some MVP voting. Just saying. But they're pretenders. They're not going to make a big splash. A lot of people like them. I'm not there yet. So there you go. All right, what do we got in the chat? Wait, stars choked. Overtime. Overtime, Wags. All right, we got some overtime in the
the Bama, South Carolina. Both teams have second lives here, Chris.
Okay. All right. Keep it rolling.
Someone slap Scotty. He knows what he did.
What? It's overtime. Second life. I mean, that's a common phrase, Back.
Bruh.
Oh, my goodness. We'll just wait till we get to that. If you guys don't know what we're alluding to, you will. You will.
I will say Miller's been a sniper tonight, Chris. 35 points. Absolutely slaying it out there.
Absolutely. If you're not... yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, guys. All right. Scotty, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers up next. You want to go first? You want me to roll?
Your turn. Go ahead.
Okay. This one is a little bit tougher for me because there's a lot of things to be excited about with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're ranked first defensive rating in the NBA, and then offensive rating, they're still in the top third in the NBA when it comes to just offensively. They have a lot of weapons. They could do a lot. They have an easy post NBA All-Star break schedule, and I think that they're going to kind of do pretty well on that. But in comparing them with the rest of the Eastern Conference, any other year, I would say contenders, but I'm on the fence here because I think when it gets to the playoffs and you slow the game down, this could benefit them a little bit more. I just think they have trouble hanging with the depth of some of the other teams above them and just the quality of what those other teams can bring. I reluctantly had the Cleveland Cavaliers as pretenders. I think that they're just barely out of that contender range. This is one of the top 4 teams in the East, and I think that there's a drop off after these 4 teams. But I do think when it comes to the Cavs and where they're at, I don't know if they're in the same class as the other 3 in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I like what the Cavs are doing. I like, the roster, especially the starting. The depth is a concern to me. There's not a lot off the bench to offer there. They don't, and I worry about in the in the playoffs. You gotta make shots. You got shot makers, and obviously Donovan Mitchell is one of the best in the league at doing that. But beyond that, I don't know if they've been battle tested enough. I don't know if you have guys that can, light it up or take a game over. Mitchell can, but then I don't know if Garland can. And then more, some of your traits are more defensive, but then we've seen elite defensive bigs, such as what Cleveland offers with Allen and the second-year guy from USC that I'm drawing a blank on his name right now for fun.
Mobley?
Evan Mobley. Anyway, we've seen Utah. This could be a repeat for Mitchell with Utah, like a good regular season. But then you space teams out. You learn how to take advantage of, similar to how they did with. Oh my gosh, who got traded out of Utah to Minnesota? Why can't I remember names?
Rudy Gobert.
Gobert. I was gonna say Gortat.
Gortat.
That's not even remotely close. I can't remember names right now, but I like where this team's headed. I don't know if they have enough shot making right now. They're only I say averaging 111 a game, which sounds pretty good until you look at some of these other teams. So, I just don't know in a close, tight battle outside of Donovan Mitchell who's going to offer a ton of options there. Maybe Garland. I mean, that's a really good backcourt. And then no depth. You in a 7-game series where you're battling, I just feel like they might get tired without any. They just released Kevin Love, which now you're looking at nobody averages even 9 points off the bench for them. So there's just not a lot of potent offense or ability off the bench. That's concerning to me.
Yeah. So
in essence, I like them a lot. I'd love to see them make a run, but ultimately pretender.
Yeah. Groot Gamer, what's up? First time popping in. Groot Gamer. Let's go. Groot Gamer, welcome in. Who's your team and where are you from? Like to get to know you. Thank you for hitting that follow button. Welcome in. Let's give him a nice warm welcome to the chat. Let's go. We're talking contenders and pretenders. Again, my name is Chris. This is Scott. We are your host for the Action Lab, your premier sports entertainment talk show on Twitch. Lakers, and I'm from St. Louis. All right, perfect. Let's go. Lakers. We'll talk about the Lakers here in a little bit. Don't worry. Don't you go nowhere. We're going to talk about them coming up. Here we go, Milwaukee's. Here we go. We have the Milwaukee Bucks. They're pretenders for sure.
Pretender.
Man.
I'm surprised they made this list.
They almost didn't make the list, but but real quick, let's go through our thing, and then we're gonna bring on Milwaukee's here to kind of chat through and what he thinks about this squad as well. But Scotty, I went first. I mean, I think we're both in agreement on this one, but I'll let you rock and roll with what you think about the Bucks. I'll talk about them, and then we'll get to Milwaukee's.
Obviously, the Bucks are contenders. I think both of us view them as the team to beat in the East, even over Boston. I think we both like them a little more. They've won 12 straight. They're playing good ball right now. You have I mean, fortunately, the news with Giannis and his hand or wrist or whatever it is doesn't sound like it's too serious, where he should be back soon and certainly back well before the playoffs, at the worst case scenario. So that's fortunate. Obviously, that's not a dude you can afford to miss. One of the best players, if debatably the best player on the planet. They still haven't even got a ton of. Middleton hasn't been a big factor here this year because he's just been injured and beat up. So they haven't got even that. You got Drew. I don't know why. I just like to call him J. Drew. Drew. It's hard to say Drew for me. Anyway, one of the best two-way guards in the game. I think he's always been underrated, Chris, because not only can he score, but he is one of, if not the best offensive point guards in the game. Along with Giannis, who obviously is elite on both sides of the ball with the 800-foot arms that he has. That helps a lot. So this team, 2 years out from a title, didn't have Middleton, or they could have been back-to-back last year in the playoffs. If they're healthy and playing well at the right time, of course they're a contender.
Yeah, I think, the fact that those players are starting to, and it's kind of unfortunate. I have them as contenders, obviously, because I had them winning the East. Realistically, I think that they're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NBA at this very juncture. They're 12 straight wins. The Bucks have also been without Bobby Portis for their last 11 games. They'll get Jay Crowder after the break. So their defensive rating has improved. Which is even, it's getting better and better, which they're already ranked in the top 5 in defensive rating. The issue I have with them that I worry about a little bit is they're a little bit rougher on offense this year. They're in the bottom third of the league in offense. It's been 20 years since a team reached the finals after ranking in the bottom 10 offensively in a regular season. And in the 26 previous seasons of play by of this data, no team with a bottom 10 offense has gone on to win a championship. But I kind of disagree with this. I know that that's a big part of it, but you have pieces that won it already. You have a good coach that understands how to win an NBA championship. Giannis, he's insane. One of the best players in the world. I just think that I want to see them improve that offensive rating over the course of the second half of the season. I still have them as the best team in the East, and I have them coming out of the East, but I really am keeping an eye on how they improve their offense, because they're a little bit lower than I would like them to be at this point. But they are contenders, and I do have them representing the East.
The biggest factor is going to be Middleton. Right?
Yeah, correct.
We know what we're going to get out of Giannis, Holiday. Middleton's he hasn't, obviously hasn't played a lot, hasn't played necessarily up to his caliber even when he has. Thank you, Fireball.
Appreciate it, Fireball.
Raid. We're sponsored here by Fireball. Everybody go ahead and... No, that's the Kelsey podcast. They are sponsored by
Shout out to Fireball. Thank you, Fireball, for everyone rolling it through. Hope you had a great stream, my friend.
So that's the biggest X factor we don't know. Is Middleton going to be the guy that he was 2 years ago when they won the title? And they'll need that, because that's the easiest way for that offense to, vastly improve. Is you take a guy that has proven to be an all-star caliber player for his whole career, and if you can get back to that and play at that level, then they're going to be super, super dangerous. If not, they could be in trouble.
Yep. Yeah, I think they're in a great spot, actually, coming into the All-Star break, getting a little healthier with some time off. But let's bring in Milwaukee's best, who, obviously he loves his Packers, he loves his Bucks, and he's always outspoken when it comes to his teams up there. So, Milwaukee, see you there.
Hey, boys, how you doing tonight?
What's up, Milwaukee? How we doing, brother?
Yeah, it's snowing. It's a blizzard up here, so... kind of stuck in home tonight. I was hoping to get on the chat a little earlier with you, but I will offer you this question. Do you remember 2 years ago, before we traded for Drew Holiday, who did we try to get?
I'm trying to think back.
We actually had a sign and trade in place, and he rejected it, which allowed the way for Drew Holiday.
sign and trade in place that was rejected. So this dude had a no trade clause.
I'm trying to think.
I don't remember.
And the only reason I bring this up is because you talked about McMillan getting fired in Atlanta.
Deontay?
Bogdan Bogdanovich
Oh.
is who the Bucks really wanted. And we settled for Drew Holiday. How'd that trade work out?
Worked out great for the
I don't
Bucks.
think that was settling. I think they.
No, it was. He rejected it.
Well, that worked out great for the Bucks.
Yeah, it worked out
because
great.
they got a better player. Clearly.
And as of the Bucks, Giannis's wrist is fine. A slight sprain. He might miss Friday's game. He should be back by next week. Middleton, I think he's 100% healthy now. They're just easing him back in, and they haven't lost a game since he came back. Do you realize this, Scotty?
I mean, I do, but it's not because of him. He hasn't exactly just. He's shooting, 42% from the field, 28% from three in his games he's played this year. So I understand they haven't lost since he's been back, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's because of Middleton's performance out there.
But the reason they're hot is I think they looked at their schedule and realized this is our part of the season where we can make up some games. The second half or the last 23 games here, we got Philadelphia twice, Boston once, the Nuggets once, and they're just trying to make up some games because if you're the 1 seed, who are you going to sit there and watch play each other in the Eastern Conference semifinals?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Certainly it appears a big advantage to be that 1 seed in the East, and then you can watch 2 and 3, between obviously the top 3 in the East with Philly and Boston and Milwaukee.
Boston go at it. Right now they're saying Cleveland. I'm scared by Cleveland because they're young enough and dumb enough.
Cleveland,
They'll just be up and down.
Cleveland is a scary team. I'm not gonna lie. They're. I mean, I've loved Cleveland all season long, but
beat us.
Last
Times I've watched them play.
Last
they're
loss for
scary,
Milwaukee was against Cleveland.
Yep.
Yeah, they're scary. I mean, they're up and down. They're just young and dumb enough. Mitchell, he doesn't care.
And they're good defensively in the paint against Giannis. I mean, Giannis likes to get in the paint, and then they have a couple stud, guys.
They got monsters.
They got monsters in the paint.
They do have the link to battle against Giannis. That's
So,
a good matchup in that form.
So when you have
And Lopez.
when you have Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, it's a tougher matchup for the Bucks for sure. So totally agree there.
The Celtics and Philly are going to slow it down a little bit, and they just don't match up. Lopez can get Embiid. We can match up against Philly or Boston. It's going to be but Cleveland, they're up and down. It's just like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that Lopez can guard Embiid, but that's a whole different matter.
Well, you got backup. You got Giannis sitting right behind him going, all right, let's go.
I'm telling you, there's some good matchups there in the Eastern Conference. But either way, Milwaukee's, we have your boys leading the East, regardless if they're first in the East right now. I've been high on the Bucks. I was a little worried when they were battling all the injuries and they were like kind of, missing some of those wins based off of the fact that Middleton was out. And I was like, are they going to get back to form? Are they going to? And I mean, because I was trying to protect my pick coming out of the East, and sure enough, they're proven that they're right back to where they should be. And
like the Crowder edition, either of you?
No, I love the Crowder edition. I think that there's some depth there. I think
have nightmares about Crowder when he was with Phoenix a couple years ago against the Nuggets when they beat him in 4. Crowder couldn't miss a 3 to save his life in that series.
Yep.
No,
Crowder backing up Buddy Porvis will be nice in the playoffs.
No, I think Crowder was a big pickup. It's a nice, piece to just throw in there. I think from just when your bench comes into the game, or if you need him to stop, at any point, you can call on him to kind of swing the game a little bit from a bench standpoint, get that second unit some momentum, get your starters some rest, but then you could still plug him in matchup wise wherever you need to. So wherever you need help. So I love it. I think that's a big pickup. I do think, again, they just need to improve offensively a little bit. But other than that, I still love them a lot. So.
Yeah, I mean, this winning streak's taken some Giannis playing Herculean at times for them to.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone 50 a couple times. He's played great. They need dudes around him. Not that Lopez is playing well. Obviously, Holiday's playing well, but in the playoffs, Giannis can't go for 40 to 50 every game. They're gonna have to rely on other guys to step up.
No, he did it against Phoenix in Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
I didn't say he couldn't do it for one game. He can't do it every game.
Yeah.
Well, it's head to head between him and the Joker for the MVP, and that'll be an interesting second half matchup right there. Who does it?
Yeah.
I think so.
We only got, what do we got? Like
23
games, 25 games.
We're coming down.
Yeah.
Coming down to it. So
And Joker, I don't know who's the betting favorite. They both got to be 1 and 2, and it couldn't be far off.
I think Joker is definitely the favorite, but they are 1 and 2.
Yep. And Embiid's in the mix. After that, you got a couple other guys that are. I think Luka should be more in the mix. What he's kind of like putting that team on his back. Alabama beat South Carolina 78-76 OT. There we go. Boom. Breaking
I'm
news.
curious about that conversation a little later. We've been kind of hitting at it, but you guys aren't wanting to get into it yet. So
Yeah, we're getting through a few more of these contender and pretenders, and we're going to get into all of the spotlights, including Alabama. So we will touch on that. But appreciate you coming on, Milwaukee's.
Chris, I'll probably talk to you tomorrow night during the NBA thing. And
let's do it.
My surprise pick for the NCAA,
UConn, love it. Okay, maybe we'll preview them on Sunday's show. I think we could
They're
probably.
hot. They were number 2 in the nation early on. But now they're hot. They beat Marquette. They just beat Providence. They beat Xavier. They're playing well.
Yeah,
I don't hate it.
Long shot that no one's really thinking about. I mean, I don't think they're a long shot. I think just no one's thinking about them. But all right, well, there you go.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. I'll talk to you tomorrow about the NBA thing.
Let's go. Let's do it.
You guys have a good night.
All right.
you too.
See you in the chat. All right. Next up. Now, this one is an interesting one based off of just the potential of what this could be, Scotty. Now, this one, this is similar to my Cleveland, where right now, as it currently sits, Golden State's 29-29. They're 500 at the 9th position in the Western Conference, and you don't have Curry. You don't have, just everyone's hurt right now. Andrew Wiggins battling some injuries. They've been kind of piecing things together literally all season long. They make a trade at the deadline, which almost went, back and forth, but there's some weird stuff going on with that, like some conspiracy stuff. But Gary Payton II comes back to offer some defensive presence on the off the bench and kind of get this team back to where he's familiar with this team. Still, I mean, I think it's crazy to me to think that I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, and Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Kayvon Looney, when they're all healthy and all in the lineup, are 5 points better offensively than the Denver Nuggets over the course of the season when it comes to their efficiency rating. And I was like, I have to double check that and look that up. And sure enough, it's mind-boggling how good that offense, but they don't have much else after that. They do have Dante DiVincenzo. Jonathan Kuminga's kind of come around. A lot of people are saying that Golden State is a team that could come back and no one wants to play this team. And I agree. I don't know. This is kind of a team that is not a gimme when you get into the playoffs, that it's going to be an easy series. But that relies on them being completely healthy. And I'm not sure how this is the biggest question mark for me. I will say Contenders. But I don't love it based off of the fact that I'm banking on Steph Curry and everyone being healthy. If they're not healthy, this is a Pretenders team. But I think they're managing this team. Steve Kerr's managing his team to be ready to go, and they're still ninth. And honestly, with how this Western Conference is stacked up, they are only, what is this? 1, 2, 2.5 games out of fourth place at the moment, if I'm looking at this right. Like, they could be there. I'm going to say Contenders for now.
I am shocked that you said Contenders.
I am too.
I feel like we talked a little bit about them like a week or two ago.
I am too.
So you were like, nah. And I'm like, I'm scared of them. Because at their peak, let's keep in mind this is the defending NBA champions.
Yeah.
You now traded for Gary Payton. You literally basically have the same roster you did last year. If anything, like maybe some of those younger guys like Kuminga have developed a little more, where you have a little more depth ish. I mean, I'm contender. Because you can't count out this team. This could be close to the last hurrah. Like, with this as it's presently constituted, like Draymond, it sounds like, doesn't have, I think he has one more year on his contract with Golden State, and I'd be shocked if he plays another season after that with Golden State, with what he's gonna try to get money wise. I don't think Golden State's gonna do that. That changes, Golden State quite a bit, right? Like, yeah, you have Curry, Thompson, all these guys, but like Draymond's kind of the glue, the attitude, the guy that like kind of gets you, so they played playoff basketball, tough, aggressive at times. This team still scares me. As a Nuggets fan, we watched him obviously beat up on us in the playoffs last year. I know the Nuggets are a much different roster this year with the health that they didn't have last season, but this team won it all last year and has the same guys back, and you can't count out a team that can, I mean, Steph can go off, Clay can go off, and that doesn't even include the guys that like to go off when it's just against us. Does it feel that way, Chris? Like, I watched, what's his name? Why can I not remember any names tonight? I literally watched Jordan Poole dominate us, and then I feel like the next series he was kind of trash and couldn't hit shots. But Jordan Poole, Wiggins, if he gets healthy again, like, I mean, they have the dudes. It's about getting healthy and piecing it together. So we'll see. But for me, they're a contender until they are literally out. Yeah,
I agree, and I think that again, that when I listened to that podcast and heard that stat of like the Nuggets being the best offense in the NBA, and their starting lineup is 5 points better than them on
that has to be the Nuggets team in general, though. That can't be the Nuggets.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where it was. It was a stat on cleaning the glass. That's like a big NBA stat thing website that they pull a lot of. It's starting to become bigger and bigger. But another thing too, the Warriors are very polarizing in their stats. Right, they're sixth best at home, 27-7 at home, 7-22 on the road. They rank third in effective field goal percentage, but they're 30th in free throw rate, 29th in turnover percentage, and 22nd in offensive rebounding. So they're like really, really high in some categories and really, really low in others. And it's like and they're hurt. It's just such a hard team to gauge. But I do have them as contenders. I'm sorry,
Chris. Sorry, I'm gonna go round 2.
Let's go.
I'm doing a code yellow again. Good for you. I don't know how you're doing this.
I mean, I haven't really been drinking that much water here, but why does Milwaukee have a slight Yinzer accent? I don't know. Maybe he could explain it. Diacola, number 3 for Joker. Let's go. Third MVP. I think he's in the mix for it. Spam code yellow in the chat. Nathan, 3rd to 13th is only 16. It's crazy. The West is wild. And Wild Wild West. Let's just put it like it is. Like there's anything could happen. The Pelicans were third place at one point, and within a matter of a week, they dropped to below, out of the race, and then they were like just yo-yoing all over the place. They're seventh now. So they dropped to 13th. Now they're back up to 7th. That's how crazy it could be. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Also, Iguodala says, Hello, Iguodala, is he ever? I mean, he's been in the league forever, and he's never healthy. He doesn't play, so how is he not healthy? It's kind of weird, strange to me.
Was he the dude that the Grizzlies got first round pick for, like a captain?
I think so. He's been kind of bouncing around, but he's found a nice little home there in Golden State. So
He's a cap dump, gets cut, goes back to the team that traded first rounder to get rid of him.
Yeah. No, it's
logic.
Yeah. He's bounced around, but he's kind of like just a piece you throw in every so often when you need. I don't really think he's going to be effective for teams at this age. I mean, he's hurt. He's always in and out of, being healthy. I don't see him being a big contributing factor. So you don't want to count on him to be playing a ton of minutes at any point, given where he's at in his career. Next up, we got Boston Celtics. Obviously, contenders. They're contenders. 42-17. They are one of the deeper teams in the NBA, top to bottom. I mean, you have a MVP candidate, Jason Tatum. Honestly, Jaylen Brown has a. It doesn't it feel like Jaylen Brown is kind of teetering on alpha in this. I mean, I know that's kind of crazy to say, knowing Jason Tatum and what Jason Tatum is and what he's going to be, but Jaylen Brown is so good. Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Robert Williams. They've added some depth at the center role. Mike Muscala is coming in. He's been playing some good minutes. Grant Williams off the bench playing some decent minutes. One of the biggest offseason moves, Malcolm Brogdon, has been playing very good off the bench. I mean, this is a very deep team. Sam Hauser, Derek White coming off the bench as well. Not to mention Peyton Pritchard, and you get really deep on this one. But regardless, Boston Celtics, we don't need to spend a lot of time. They're contenders, and they are going to be battling Milwaukee and the likes of even Philadelphia if they creep into the mix for the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as the Brown Tatum. I think it's very close to, a lot of people want to call that Batman Robin. It's close to being, Brown has his moments where he's a better player on the court than Tatum.
Yeah.
I know Tatum's like their dude, but Brown, I mean, between the two of them, they put up like 57 a game. So those are your two. That's option 1A and 1B for sure. I mean, Jaylen Brown has offensively grown in his shot far more than I ever thought he would. I loved him coming out, but I never thought he'd be able to shoot the ball like he is. I feel like at times he gets disrespected and not talked about enough with that Boston. Obviously, they're a contender. Made it to NBA Finals last year. Again, a similar roster coming back. You talk about the depth. You have the Marcus Smart, who is one of those dudes. Like, you probably love him if he's on your team. You hate him if he's not. And they, with Horford and even, they haven't had Robert Williams a ton this year, but you have some guys in the paint. You talked about Brogdon, a ton of depth. This team, I think, is the odds-on favorite. I think they're favored over Milwaukee too.
Over everybody, yep.
Or in the East, at least, as far as, are they number one overall to win the NBA title?
Correct.
They are. Okay, so this is the favorite. I don't know if I feel that way. Like I wouldn't bet on them when they have the worst odds. I think there's some other guys that are, because they haven't got over that top yet. Can they? Yeah, but it's going to be a dogfight, and I don't see them it's not like they're leaps and bounds above a Milwaukee or even a Philly, or once you hit the NBA Finals, who you're playing in the West. It's going to be a battle. This is a really, really, really good basketball team that we'll see if they can become truly great and win an NBA title. But those two dudes at the top are obviously really damn good.
I'm curious to see how Tatum handles his meltdown from last season in the playoffs in the NBA Finals, and if he's going to improve on that too. By the way, Celtics are the only team that ranked top 5 in both ends of the floor. They've outscored their opponents by 6.2 points per 100 possessions, the best mark in the league. They have the league. They lead the league in 3-point differential, having outscored their opponents by 13.1 points per game from 3-point range. They're absolutely a solid team and contenders. Next up, Philadelphia 76ers. By the way, casually, I remember when Iguodala was a fringe all-star in Philly. That was a while ago. He's a good guy from my hometown, and he's a great dude. I just think he's way past his prime, and I just don't think he can contribute to the same level. He's always hurt, and he's always in and out of, I don't know. Iguodala, it's kind of surprising that he's still on a roster, but at this point,
Iggy's on their roster.
Yeah,
in Golden State.
Yep,
it's irrelevant. He's like a player coach.
Yeah, I think he's more of a consultant.
I literally didn't even know he was on the still in the league. I thought he was done.
Next up, Philadelphia. Scotty, do you have Philadelphia as a contender or a pretender?
Pretender.
Okay.
And they haven't done it. Like every year we hear about, Philly's got Embiid and they got the whoever it is around him. Now, obviously, it was supposed to be the big three with Simmons and Harden. Simmons not there anymore, but it just seems dysfunctional between Harden. Playoff Harden is not regular season Harden. It never has been. He all of a sudden I don't know if he loses vision in the playoffs with his shot, like he's seeing multiple hoops or what, but like he has not been the shooter that he has been in his career in the playoffs. I don't trust him, and Embiid's not going to be enough on his own, and quite frankly, where Embiid gets it done is at the free throw line, and that hopefully in the playoffs, the whistle's a little looser. They let him play a little more because it's just not entertaining basketball to watch a free throw contest, right? Like nobody's refs. I know you love the attention, but nobody's here to watch a free throw contest in the NBA. I just don't. I don't see it with Philly. I don't. They're nice. They're nicing. Could I be wrong and this kick my ass later? For sure. I think a lot of people would probably rank them as a contender. I just don't see them beating Milwaukee or Boston in a series. Either one of them. Don't. So for me, they're a pretender. I don't see them winning a title.
Yeah, and I'm so this is kind of similar that I'm battling with. We're talking about contenders for a national championship or like an NBA championship. And I'm with you. When it comes to the two teams above Philadelphia, I think that they are, by and large, better suited to win an NBA title. Now, Philadelphia has done some things this year that have kind of changed. They're both top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. You have Embiid, who is playing really, really well and getting in a nice rhythm with James Harden, setting 831 ball screens for Harden. And Harden has assisted Embiid 171 times. Those are the most ball screens for any league-wide combination and the most assists from one player to a single teammate. So they're in a nice rhythm. Maybe it took a season to kind of get to this point. So there's little bright spots for me about this team that make me think this could be the turning point for them more so than I believed in the last couple years. But do I think that they can contend and outlast either the Milwaukee Bucks or the Boston Celtics? Probably not. Probably not. They have pretty much they have the league's toughest remaining schedule in regard to cumulative opponent winning percentage down the stretch here. 3-game homestand, and then they got they host the Grizzlies, the Celtics, the Heat. 15 of their final 22 games will be on the road. So I think we're gonna see what they're made of. If they last the second half of the season and they're successful with the toughest schedule and all those road games, then maybe they can prove me wrong. But as of right now, at the midpoint part of the season, I have them as pretenders.
We agree on every one. That's kind of depressing, Chris.
I
thought we disagree on a couple of these. I thought Golden State we disagree on, maybe Philly, but we're on the same page.
Philly is the closest I've come to disagreeing with you, I think. Because I think there's something with them this year that's a little different. They have a little bit more to work with this year that I feel good about than I did last couple seasons. My biggest question again is James Harden going to continue? We thought this was last year when he was playing good basketball and then he melted in the playoffs again. Because what defenses do in the playoffs is they know how to isolate James Harden and take him out of what he's comfortable doing, and that just completely destroys the way this offense is run. So that's what I'm worried about, because there's a game plan out there. People have a script for James Harden, and it pans out every year the same way.
Scripted what?
NBA scripted, yeah. NBA scripted, pretty much.
Every sport is apparently scripted.
Yeah. Contender or pretender, we have the Memphis Grizzlies on the board. Do you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
Go for it.
Pretenders. I think this is the most overrated team in the NBA. I think this is, by and large, you want to talk about a team that I just don't believe in whatsoever, and they're a number 2 seed in the West right now. They're 5 games back behind Denver, and they've just been losing games left and right. They've lost their record against teams that are above 500, or I think they're like 15 and 17. It's not a good record against teams that are above 500. You look at the Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, all the top teams in the conferences, Eastern Conference and the Western. All of them have positive records against teams that are above 500 and are winning franchises. This team does not. This team is, I think, the biggest pretenders of anybody else. I think they're the most overrated team in the NBA. And I think that, sorry, Rick, by the way, I'm like crushing your team. I just don't believe in them whatsoever. I think that they're, hyper athletic guards like Ja Morant. I think that I feel like, when's the last time we saw a hyper athletic guard like Ja Morant get to an NBA Finals and win it? Like, it doesn't happen very often. I just think that this is a tough team to believe in. They're scary to put your cards behind. They're good defensively. They're a scrappy team. I just don't think they can hold up against the top teams in the NBA.
Yeah, we're going to agree again, Chris. I think that's not a surprise. I think they're pretenders. I mean, this is a team that's lost, I believe, 9 of their last 13. They've been in a slide. I love their backcourt. I love Bane. I love Desmond Bane. I've always been a Desmond Bane guy since he got drafted a couple of years ago out of TCU. I was high on him then. He's got the biggest arms I've ever seen for a guard in the league, and still can stroke it. I don't even know how he can feel what he's doing. Well, that's a whole other point, but yeah, it got weird there. Ja Morant obviously is an electric athlete, a dude that can take over games all the time if he wants. So those two are nice. You have Jaren Jackson, who's an all-star, but does he really move the needle a ton for me? And the biggest issue for me is, like, Dylan Brooks takes about 8 more shots than he should. Dylan Brooks is awful. Dylan Brooks is, 1, he's dirty as fuck, and that annoys me. But 2, he's just bad at basketball. And he talks a ton of shit. And he's not good. He's not even shooting 40% from the field this year, Chris. He's at 39%.
He has shot 22.7% from three-point range since January 1st, the worst mark among 185 players with at least 50 attempts. So he's 22 for 97 from the three-point line since the new year took over.
he will be their downfall. Inevitably. He will be it.
Well, and that's another thing. This team isn't a great 3-point shooting team. Like they're
even close.
they're
like
not
34%.
They're not great. So I think that there's a lot of things that are fool's gold when you're looking at a team that's second place in the West. If there's one team that I'm just like all over, it's this one.
Yeah. And as second, there is a little gap between them and third, surprisingly, even still. But this is a team that as a Nuggets fan, I am rooting to collapse a little down the stretch and move to like a 4th, 5th. That'd be great. Like, I want the Nuggets to play the Grizz.
Yeah. I would.
Ever since Jaws, like, I ain't worried about the West. They've been dog shit. And I would love the Nuggets to get matched up against the Grizz in a playoff series.
Yeah.
They would manhandle the shit out of them.
Yeah. I think so too. Sacramento, as much as I would love them to be contenders, I don't see it. They don't play enough defense for my liking to be contenders. Do I think that they're one of the most fun teams to watch? Absolutely. You know, you have a couple guys on that roster, De'Aaron Fox. You have Domantas Sabonis, who are absolutely just leading this team in a fun way offensively and, you know, putting up a ton of points. Both all-stars, by the way, both playing some of the best seasons of their lives. And they are absolutely a fun team and a fun story. Fun stories don't win championships, though. And that's why I have them as contenders. I mean, pretenders. I'm sorry. Pretenders. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm happy for Sacramento fans.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gone through some rough years, Chris.
They're back.
For the last close to 20 years, it feels like it. Ever since they lost that series against LA, Kobe and Shaq in like early 2000s, it's just been downhill from there. So the fact that they're playing great ball and look like they're going to make the playoffs again, I'm happy for the fans. I'm also happy, like, Chris, if you recall, when they traded for Sabonis last year and traded Halliburton, that deal was just trashed around the league, right? Like, everybody talking about it was like, why would you give up Halliburton? How can you do this? Listen, and Halliburton's gone on to Indiana and played great. He's played great. Don't get me wrong. But, like, Sabonis is playing really well. You know, having apparently that mix, you know, with Fox and Sabonis playing off each other is a nice mix for them. Are they a contender? Of course not. Of course not, Chris.
I mean,
not this year.
I said this on the last week's show, on the Thursday show, of when they made that trade, everyone was focused on the Halliburton. I'm like, you know, Domantas Sabonis was part of this trade too, right? Because he was a big factor. Now, you know, defensively, they ranked 22nd in the NBA overall rating, net rating, and it's going to be tough to turn that around when you have twice as many remaining games against top 10 offenses down the stretch than they do bottom 10 offenses. So it's not going to be an easy to navigate schedule down the stretch, and I just think, you know, overall, they are a couple pieces away, I think, from really being a team that you want to, you know, put your cards on, all your chips in the middle of the table for, because I think they have a lot of what you would like offensively. They're one of the top offenses in the NBA. I think their net rating, I think they're in the top 3 or 4 in overall offensive rating, and it's super exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun. Again, though, Chris, like, if Memphis and Sacramento could slide to the 4-5, what a dream! What a dream for the Nuggets.
Speaking of Nuggets, pretenders. Just kidding. They're not pretenders. They are going to win it all. They are contenders for the NBA finals and winning the NBA finals. This is the deepest team. This is the best team that this franchise has probably ever put together. They have one of the best number one offense, led by a 2-time MVP that's about to win a third if it keeps going the way it's going. What's most important is they went from the first part of the first couple months of the season, the first month or so of the season, they were ranked 26th in defense. They are now currently 13th overall defensive rating, according to the NBA, or according to NBA.com, and they are absolutely turning it around from a defensive standpoint. So not only are you having a team prolific offensively, best three-point shooting team percentage-wise in the NBA, and outscoring their opponents 13.1 points per 100 possession in the first quarter, best mark for any team in any quarter. They've had the league's 29th ranked bench, which is kind of their Achilles heel. That's always kind of been the issue with them. So if you're gonna knock on the Nuggets team at any point, it's trying to get that bench secured, and we're trying to do that. We have Reggie Jackson coming in, kind of shoring up, which I love the pickup for Reggie Jackson, as opposed to having Bones Highland. You got that veteran who's played in NBA playoffs, who's been a part of some teams that have made some deep runs into the NBA playoffs. He's been around the league. He's a veteran. He knows how to rally like the bench and kind of keep things, locked down from that standpoint. So I'm curious to see how he plays. We also have a backup center that's going to come in. We picked up, what's his name? Thomas Bryant, who I think is going to be once he gets in the flow of this roster, I think he's going to be a very valuable piece when it comes to defensively, what he could do offensively as well. Just kind of being a presence. He's not going to be shot blocking by any means. He's not going to be like a lockdown center, but he could still keep us afloat offensively, which is kind of what, and take up space on the defensive side. So either way, we're getting better defensively, and it's just hard to look at this team and see who are you going to cover on this starting lineup when we get to the playoffs and you're running 8-9-man rotations. It's hard to say, hey, I'm going to take away Jokic. I'm going to take away MPJ. I'm going to take away KCP. I'm going to take away, you can't take away everybody. And it's just, there's mismatches everywhere when Jokic gets the ball, and you can't, what do? You can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, best starting five in the league. Man, I don't even know if you could argue another starting five.
Phoenix is up there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you could argue that, but I'd still take Denver starting five over Phoenix. Listen, we got Reggie Jackson, Thomas Bryant, like you talked about, to help that bench, fortify that bench a little bit. Because Bones at one point was kind of like our hot stove off the bench that could add some points, but it hasn't. He was not having a great sophomore year compared to his rookie year. He seemed to regress a little, take some bad shots at times. So maybe that's an addition by subtraction. But either way, the Nuggets starting five, Chris, is there's no weak link there. Listen, I know we only have one All-Star on our team, but come on, Jamal was playing great prior to sitting out the last 5 or 6 games prior to the All-Star break. Aaron Gordon easily could have been an All-Star. KCP is leading the league in 3-point percentage. And MPJ is kind of playing defense this year, Chris. No one's calling him lockdown, but he's not just a empty player on that side of the court. And I would argue that he's probably the best shooter on our team, even with all those other guys. So no one in our starting lineup shoots below 39% from three. I think Joker's our worst 3-point shooter based off percentage in our starting five, and he's 39. That's ridiculous. That's insane. This team offensively, and quite frankly, probably better than defensively than people get them credit for, but offensively is just a juggernaut. An impossible matchup. You cannot guard this team on defense. You just gotta hope they miss. You gotta hope they miss shots. And maybe have some bad turnovers. But yeah, I know we're gonna sound like hopers, Chris. I promise you, before this year, I would have never. There's never been a year, at least in this Joker era or whatever, where I would have called the Nuggets contenders. They finally are. They're finally. I mean, if this roster stays healthy and it leads into the playoffs, I mean, they got a nice cushion for the number 1 seed, so they're gonna have home court throughout. They're absolutely a contender.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to go against what they're doing this year. And I'm as a Nuggets fan, I'll take it. All right. So let's go ahead. Let's move on to who do we got? The Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns coming in. So you want to go first or me?
Either way.
I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. Phoenix is good, Chris. That roster, I mean, obviously trading for Durant, they're now the betting favorite in the West. I think it was Denver prior to that, or maybe even LA at one point, the Clippers. But now the clear favorites that everyone wants to talk about. Now, obviously, listen, you got Chris Paul, Booker, Durant, that with DeAndre Ayton. Those four are really, really nice. But let's keep in mind, like, one, you're not going to have a long time to mesh.
Yep.
Like, this is going to have to be a quick mesh. And I think Durant can adapt to that? Yeah, a little bit. But, like, listen, Chris Paul's not the same dude he was before. And frankly, Mikal Bridges, by the way, has gone off.
Mikal Bridges was a travesty that they lost. They lost him in that trade.
He just went off right before the All-Star break for like 45 points. Like, that dude is a monster that I don't think Phoenix fans, I don't think NBA fans knew exactly who Mikal Bridges could and is and could be. Like, and not to mention he's a two-way guy. He can play defense. So yeah, you add Durant, but you lose Bridges, you lose some other pieces like the other wing they lost that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But they lost guys in that too. And you got a short window to turn this around and mesh and play together. Are they contenders? Of course they're contenders. Because on paper, you look at this roster and it's scary. It's scary to deal with. And this is a team that's been very, very close before and hasn't quite got it done, as close as getting the NBA Finals. But if Booker's playing and hitting shots and Chris Paul, is setting guys up and Durant's draining shots, like, and DeAndre Ayton's playing solid defense and is a threat at the rim on offense to, lob plays or a little post scoring, like, do they have a ton of depth behind those guys? No, of course not. They had to sell them all. They all got moved. So not a lot of depth, but that starting five, once it gets together, is going to be dangerous. Of course they're a contender. What are you about to do here, Chris? What are you about to do? Is this your true feeling or is this a hope?
I don't know if this is me. I don't know if this is me going like Kendrick Perkins style or trying to do a hot take on this, because you made a couple points that I kind of was like I'm hesitant on when it comes to what they can put on the court. Now they need some time to mesh. They don't have as much time, and historically we've talked about how trades who have had that big time names that have changed teams, like Kevin Durant, like a superstar, haven't exactly panned out in the second half of the season. It takes some time to kind of get in a rhythm, everything else. The Suns ranked last in the percentage of their possessions, 13.2, that have been in transition, according to Synergy tracking. Mikal Bridges no longer with the team. We mentioned that, which was one of the biggest losses. I think they should have tried to keep him. I mean, he's a he's such a straight up dude. He's great in the community. He's always just he was the glue of that team. He had scored 60 more transition points than any other Suns player at the All-Star break. They lose a massive piece there, a big piece of the puzzle there. They have 8 players tied with Brooklyn for the league lead who have shot league average 36% or better, at least 103 point attempts. But the Suns have already lost 10 more games than they did all last season, having the league's biggest drop in winning percentage. They've seen their 3rd biggest drop in point differential from last season. And I just think with Denver in the West, I'm going to go Pretender, Scotty. I'm going crazy. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I don't think this team is going to have enough time to put it all together. And I think that they're going to try to do what they can to fix this team and put it. Do they have a really good starting lineup? Yes, they have a great. I worry about their depth because they've had issues with injuries. They've had Landry Shamet, who's been gone. Cameron Payne's been gone. I don't know if they're coming back. If they do come back, they're more dangerous, and I think that their depth takes a step up, and I like that a lot. But you go to the bench, and you got to rely on Damian Lee and Josh Okogie and T.J. Warren. They added Terrence Ross. I like the addition of Terrence Ross. I think that adds a little bit, but since when has Terrence Ross been a game changer on any team? He could put up points, but that's it. I'm going Pretender on the Suns. I don't think this is their year. I don't think they're going to make it this year. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
All right, Chris.
Hot take.
At this point, you're only going to have one contender in the West. I don't know. You have Golden State. So
I have Golden State. I have Golden State.
A couple points. One, just a moment ago when I was talking about our Nuggets, I said no one can rival our starting 5, and you were the one that chimed in and said, "Well, Phoenix."
I mean, yeah, but I maybe I was throwing smoke screens there, but
yeah. Okay. All right. Go big.
Hot take. Put it up. Clip it. Put it somewhere. Suns in 4 ain't a thing this year. I think it's going to be a little bit rockier of a transition. Everyone's so excited about it. Everyone's got them locked in. I'm saying not so fast. Let's just put it that way. LA Lakers. Can we keep this one quick?
I thought we were only doing like the top 6 in each conference.
Wait, I wanted to just throw a couple out there.
Chris, you can't be a contender when you don't even get into the play-in.
It's true. Yeah, you're right. Lakers, they're going to do everything they can. LeBron called out Anthony Davis without calling him out in the media this past week by saying, I'm planning on playing every game down the stretch, which isn't realistic. There's no way LeBron's playing every game down the stretch. But you know what that message is for? It's for Anthony Davis. So there's something brewing. Conspiracy music cue. There's something brewing in LA that I don't think everything is all it seems. You saw LeBron break the record. You saw Anthony Davis not get excited about it. I don't think the same love for LeBron and AD is there. You see it like with what LeBron's saying. AD's never going to be healthy. It's just he's not consistent enough to be healthy. And they did get better. They did get better at the trade deadline. I just don't think they just dug themselves such a big hole. They're not going to contend for an NBA championship, so they're pretenders. But they did get better.
Yeah,
slightly
by trading for a dude that's been traded like another guy that's just been moved around the league. And yeah, this team doesn't like one another, Chris. Like they don't like each other.
No.
LeBron doesn't like anybody. Anthony Davis doesn't like anybody. Like you don't see them having fun on the court, Chris. That's for damn sure.
No.
And they're right now like 2 games out of 10th. Quite frankly, Chris, they should lose on purpose and try to get
a lottery or something.
It won't help.
But they don't have.
Well, they'll probably be handed the Wembanyama Mama sweepstakes. regardless. But do they not have their picks? I don't know. I don't know what they've traded and what they have and don't have picks wise. But this team's done. They're not making the plan. I'll say it right now.
Yeah. No. Pretenders.
They're the third worst team in the West. We don't have to talk about it.
For the sake of time, Nets are pretenders. They're not for me. They're not. They have a lot of pieces that are like good pieces. They just don't mesh well. They're not like great positionally set up to, be. They need to rework and get some sort of structure or some sort of like core that they want to build around. Right now, they just have a bunch of random dudes.
It's like only wing players.
It's
just a roster of wing players. They don't have point guards. They don't have bigs. It's just wings.
Hello, Ma. I dropped in a few times in the fall, but didn't get to celebrate the Chiefs with Scotty. So go Chiefs, LOL. Yeah, there you go.
I celebrated plenty, similar to the Chiefs did on their parade day. I just did it on that Sunday.
How we doing, Durandom? How we doing? So Nets pretenders until they can figure out what their plan is.
I didn't even hear did you say Hellema instead of hello Emma?
Hello Emma.
Hello, ma.
Hello Ma.
Yeah.
Hello Ma. I was just
I know you mispronounce a lot. That one was kind of easy though, Chris.
I just like I'm trying to like talk fast and it just doesn't really work out for me.
Sure.
Clippers, they are the Los Angeles Chargers of the NBA. So for me, they're pretenders. Everyone's got them winning the West all of a sudden, and I just don't understand it. You can't get these two superstars on the court ever, and then they just add Russell Westbrook to the mix, which has he been able to mesh? No, he hasn't been able to. Can he take the one thing that I do think could potentially happen is Russ coming off the bench and owning backups, backup point guards, backup centers, getting to the paint, taking advantage. He's very good at doing those things. That's the only value that he offers this team. And you have to have, because you can't put him with everybody else on the starting lineup, just based off of how much he needs the ball in his hands. We've talked about this with the Lakers. We talked about it with all these other franchises. He offers value off the bench, but it depends on how the Clippers use him. And if he ends up working his way into playing with Kawhi and Paul George, you're walking a fine line, but it hasn't worked in the last 5. This is his 5th team in 5 years. Do I think it's going to all of a sudden work with a team like this? It didn't work anywhere else, so why would I think it's going to work here? But this team made a move for Mason Plumlee. Bones Highland obviously gets pushed to the back end, so that trade is kind of nullified all of a sudden. But George, Terrence Mann, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris getting older, and Zubac. It's a fine roster. It's not a special roster, and I do not think they're going to be winning the West. They're pretenders.
This one was borderline for me, Chris, and then they signed Russell Westbrook, and now they're absolutely pretenders. It was an idiot. I don't get the signing. It doesn't make sense to me. And why do we keep going back to the middle of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and this team? They've never got it done before. I don't know why we expect them to. Again, they're not. The Nuggets own the Clippers. Absolutely own them. So if they have to face the Nuggets, that's a terrible matchup for LA because they can't hang. I don't know. It's just kind of boring. They're kind of boring.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be a little more interesting with Westbrook when they like. Can you imagine Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook having a conversation?
No.
What the? Yeah.
I
was just gonna be like, dude, I hate you. I hate you so much.
Speaking of, did you see the clip on Twitter where Paul George was talking about Bones Highland, or they were talking in a post-game interview about hey, you traded for some new guys, you brought them in, and Kawhi, Paul George is like, yeah, no, we got some great guys, we got Bones, and he's a professional, and like he couldn't say something positive about Bones Highland. And I was just like, damn. Bones Highland went from up here with the Nuggets, in a good situation, coming off the bench, having some decent minutes for a kid that's as young as he is, especially in Michael Malone's rotation, and he gets shipped over and then gets immediately dropped to pretty much the third string. I don't know. Eric Gordon is kind of like, why is Eric Gordon still on a roster? By the way, can I is he I don't think Eric Gordon's it either. I don't know why people are so high on him, but
people are excited about Mason Plumlee edition. I'm like, that's adorable.
Why is the only sport where they try to put together super squads in the second half of the season? Could you imagine that in the NFL? It's crazy. It's a different game.
Yeah. No, I mean it wouldn't work in the NFL. It wouldn't. And not that it even really works in the NBA. Like, what was the last trade deadline deal that was a marquee all-star player that put a team over the top?
Marc Gasol.
What?
Marc Gasol to the Raptors.
Marc Gasol wasn't the addition to the Raptors that made that team.
No. Marc Gasol.
Marc Gasol.
His career at that point, he wasn't Marc Gasol anymore.
Well, and then Kawhi Leonard came from the Spurs to the Raptors, and then
that was in the offseason, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was more of what kind of put them in that conversation. But
band wreck.
Band wreck. Hey, Rex trying to learn. He was like, he had no idea about dunk contests and history of that and everything else. He's learning on the NBA side. We're educating. We're educating.
When the Raptors won, Marc Gasol averaged a nice 9 points per game for them, with 9 points and 6 boards.
They need all 9 of those points to be able to beat the Warriors.
Maybe they beat the Warriors because the Warriors didn't have health on their side.
That too.
That's really what they need. That was their biggest move at the deadline, was making sure Klay Thompson ruined his Achilles.
Klay Thompson definitely took the L in the injury department there. So there you go. Those are our midway point contenders and pretenders. If NBA season, this is the best time coming down the stretch.